utilization of crystal forms as a therapeutic agent. That is my purpose of being with you. I will share with you what I know now. I want, to the best of my ability, to cut away mysticism and replace mysticism with knowledge. With knowledge, then fear leaves, and you can deal with what you are doing in a loving way. I'd like to start the work today, tomorrow, and the day after tomorrow with a meditation, with the quieting of our mind and the playing of music, so that we can fill our body with sound. We can release what we have experienced coming here and setting ourselves in place and opening our mind to preparing to understand what I am sharing with you. As a theme for meditation, I'd like to give you the words of Wilhelm Oswald, that great German scientist who is the father of the theories of color. He was a chemist, a brilliant philosopher. He learned how to live life fully. His equation is the following.
Equation. Leading.
What?
Leading. Leading. I'm just translating.
G equals A, it's running out of ink, minus W. And what that says is Glück, gleich Arbeit, weniger Widerstand. Glück is happiness. Is equal to work, Arbeit, minus resistance. And this is what I'm going to try to share with you these days, is to give you the information with minimum resistance. And in accordance with that, we can deal with this knowledge in a joyful, happy, cheerful way. Not trying to drive home or sell you an argument that we be fooled on. But take it in for yourself, what I'm saying, test it, evaluate. Come back and critique with me. You've got me here for 3 days, and the more you hit me, the more I will enjoy it. I'll come back twice as hard. This type of dialogue, the testing by fire, is the way real knowledge takes place. This is the way I work in the laboratory. I'll take an idea, treat it like a child, and become joyful, happy. But the moment I step into the laboratory, as this will be these 3 days, this is our laboratory, we then must test, critique, and remove the resistance of doubt by experience and understanding. So that is the thing. So that we were going to work together, remove as much as possible the resistance to the understanding of what we are doing. And through that, we come to a feeling of joy, happiness, and unfolding. Now, Kurt, let's have a meditation. And we will work with my little baby here, this 13-sided meditation crystal. We'll start by sitting up straight, coupling your legs. Breathe in and out. Breathe in. Close your eyes. Visualize the crystal and let your breath out into the crystal. Become one now with the crystal. Feel the vibration of the beauty, the pattern, the force that a crystallographic form has. Let us start now to breathe together. Breathe in and out. With each indwelling breath, release the tension that is in your body and bring it to a sense of peace and harmony. Breathe in, out. Breathe in, peace be to you, and out. Now create in your mind the reason, the purpose of your being here. What you want to know, to experience, to bring from here and put into practice. Happiness is work minus resistance. What resistance do I have now in my body that I wish to release? Peace to you all. My computer now is here. This means the internal vibrations and feelings of each of you are stored here in this crystal. From time to time, I will pick it up and use it as a transducer to help me to speak to you in a more deep, practical, and meaningful way. Let us start out straightforward. What is a crystal? How many of you have knowledge on crystallography or the science of the growth of crystals? You? You. So just 3 out of the group. Also, would you like now to have a clearer understanding of a crystal per se, how it grows in nature? A crystal like this is made from a solution in water of silica dioxide, SiO2. 2 atoms of oxygen and 1 atom of silica combine together and they form silica. It is one of the most proliferous elements and materials and compounds we have in nature. For the solution of silica in water to form a single crystal like this, it must do the following set of actions. It must first form in solution what we call a unit cell. Now, a unit cell corresponds almost exactly to a human cell in our body. It is the smallest unit which, when you separate that unit, it loses its identity. Silica now is SiO2. 1 atom of silica with 2 atoms of oxygen, SiO. Now that is a molecule of silica dioxide. These are in solution. They move around aimlessly. They have no real identity. When you reduce the percentage or increase the percentage by evaporating the water, these molecules of silicon dioxide associate together, and as they get to a critical dimension, they link and form a unit cell which is hexagonal in shape. This unit cell is the memory unit on which now a crystal will grow. If you do not have that, you cannot get a single crystal. You'll get a precipitation of an amorphous mass, a gel. You take silica, you dissolve it in water by heating it, and you let the water evaporate. You have jelly, a silica gel. Now what that represents are these units of silicon dioxide which link together in random shape. They are not cohesive, they are random, and they therefore have no bond forces holding them together. And so you can stick your finger in the jelly and it is like jelly. It has no strength to it. Now, you take this same silica gel, bring it back into solution, and you cool it slowly, and suddenly out of that solution will precipitate minute crystals. And if you capture one of these crystals, it'll be exactly like this. That is called a seed crystal. S-E-E-D. What you have done by slowly cooling and having the right concentration, you've allowed these molecules of silica in solution to fit together and suddenly find the right combination that they link and form this hexagonal structure. And once you can get that structure, you then have the nucleating site or memory unit on which now crystals can grow. The remarkable thing that we found in our laboratory, we have found, I'm making a big bridge right now, but I want to give it to you at this moment. These type of crystals which you have are memory units. These are composited of millions and millions of these unit cells. And as a consequence, your energy, my energy, can go into this. I can program with my mind a crystal. And what I did, I put the thought of nucleating silica so it would crystallize out of solution properly. So I took and put that into a holder, a special holder we made, and spun water around it, which contained a very dilute solution of silica. And then I took a drop of that, put it under the on a slide, and watched it in the microscope in comparison to the same solution that had not been treated by my mind. The one that I focused my mind on came out in beautiful needles of silica, single crystals of silica, only a few microns long, but perfect. The other side was just a jelly, amorphous, without order. The implication, please, implication, your mind, your thoughts can enter matter and order it. Bring a systematic ordering like this into being, and I have done it. It is a most thrilling thing to experience. You can take from random order and by focused attention bring a systematic ordering into being. That is why we're here. That's what I have given my time to come here to be with you, is to learn how to put in systematic order the patterns of life within you so that you start to form and act in a regular systematic array. You have a seed crystal. You take this seed and put it back in a little string into the solution. And then again you cool it. But now, as that solution flows around that seed, it has a reference electrode to work from. It has an informational source to know what to do, and so each one of these molecules start to link onto that, and they go face by face by face, and they just keep expanding. And they grow layer by layer, and as that expands, you see exactly these angles as you see here. These are called the faces. The end of the crystal is called a termination. So this crystal started here, and it became confused when it was first growing, and that gives you that whitish color, as you see, because the crystal planes grew in random orientation. And so when you see it, you see the random orientation here, and finally they locked in place and started to grow symmetrically and systematically, and that gives you this beautiful, clear, single crystal. In nature, a solution of silica in water is dripped down from a cave. This was attached here, and it flowed over this, and then it extracted it, and it built and built, and it decided now to stop here, and it called now a termination. It says that is enough of growth for this, and I will now finish my growth in life. There is a livingness to a crystal when it grows. You can feel the dynamic vibration to a crystal. And then it starts to take this face and just terminate it, because it steps, one step, one crystal unit at a time inward until it terminates here. You go this face, it comes here and it terminates here. Go this face here and it terminates here. These angles, every one of them are exactly the same. You take a goniometer, or you can take a piece of cardboard, cut it out, and you'll find that each one of these angles are exactly the same. They're symmetrical. The symmetry then that you see indicates that there is a symmetrical plan from which these things have accreted from and have grown. This is the termination of the crystal. Now, the crystal, when it grows like this, has an option. It can grow left-handed, turning around left-handed spiral, or it can grow a right-handed spiral. Which means when these unit cells accrete, they can start here and they can start to spiral around in this way. Because all crystals grow in spirals. All of them. There is a to it. Because you see, when you have this in space, a one unit cell, it prepares for the next growth, for organizing these random molecules in space here, and then they lockstep in and they start to grow around. A crystal, when it grows, absorbs the vibrations of the forces that exist in and around it. So a natural crystal is a perfect storage library of the geologic forces that have existed throughout its time of growth. It reflects in the internal symmetry of this crystal the forces of nature that were there at that time. consequently, those who work with natural crystals, I call this a natural crystal that has been taken right from nature, and are not cognizant of this or aware of it, will induce in their body the effect of all of these geological imprinting forces. These are big, important statements.
Also including the blow when they put it out of the rock.
Oh, well, I haven't come to that yet. Please, Chris, I'm just... No, I said, but I'm doing a step by step. That means, in the exact way the crystal grows, and above all, what we call the space lattice group imperfections. The latticite imperfection. So when a crystal lattice grows, it will suddenly skip, and that skip forms what you call a slip plane. It will grow imperfectly. It is reflecting in its growth a change or a force that existed in nature there. We go deeper. A crystal now, after it has grown this way, can also reflect the magnetic and, above all, the forces of nuclear radiation. Radiation effects, gamma, alpha, and the like. Gamma radiation, X-rays, when they will strike on a quartz crystal like this, will cause a silica atom to be displaced from its lattice site, pushed up, and it creates then a negative ion vacancy. So there is a hole in space created by the radiation. That hole then will absorb light. And you see then a smoky crystal, or the smoky quartz. An idea came to me last year at Munich when I spoke to some of you who were here about helping the people who have been exposed to Chernobyl. I got a source of a mine of smoky quartz. I tested this, and I found that when I took natural smoky quartz, placed a radioactive source on it, the energy, the radioactive emanations were stored in the crystal. I could measure that radiation with a Geiger counter, and now I got an inspiration. I said, could I erase that radiation, release it from its lattice site? What I did, I have an omega-5 measuring instrument to measure the forces that are within a crystal. I put that into the well, measured the field that was in there. I have on the other side an ability to do color therapy. I put then the crystal that was exposed to radiation in there, and then exposed the crystal to red light, around 6,000 angstrom units, deep red. The moment I shone the red light onto that crystal, there was an abrupt release of energy. No longer could I detect any radiation in the crystal. When I checked it with a Geiger counter, it was clear. So I had a storage device that could soak up radioactive emanation and release it with red light. The start of a device, a safety device that you and I can wear to protect ourselves from radiation. Now, I have a source, a mine we found in California. I was there personally. I helped get these crystals. And I have about 200 to 300 pounds of the crystal in my laboratory now. Next step. We're talking now, first, the forces of nature modifying the growth of a crystal. We're talking the next step, the forces of radiation, X-rays, gamma rays, nuclear forces. Now we'll talk on mechanical forces. In other words, a miner seeing this crystal and taking his hammer and hitting this affects every lattice site and creates a disturbance in that crystal, which, held in the hands of a sensitive person, you can feel. I have had crystals which were beautiful, were just a beautiful single crystal. But a miner had taken and with a sledgehammer and had knocked it from the side of a cave, and that blow created havoc inside the crystal. Still holds. Now, what can you do about that? Crystals, in order for you and I to use them, must be purified. They must be released from all negative radiation. They must be released from all patterns of thought. They must be released from all stresses applied by the act of mining or getting them. We, in our laboratory, take a crystal like this and end up with a form that you see here. A four-sided healing crystal. We do this with diamond saws and diamond laps, and above all, with love. We sing as we cut these crystals. We give music to the crystal as we're finishing and cutting it. Because we want to turn this from something like this into an instrument of service and use for mankind. To clear a crystal from the patterns of thought, the emotions, the tension, the stresses that have been imposed on it, including and above all the stress of the tearing away from its root here or the blow of a hammer, can be done in a remarkably simple way. The healing force is love. Because the definition in my mind of love is that force which coheres matter. It brings the matter together in a way that it was designed to be. It heals. So a crystal, when it is first to be used, must be healed. And so the act of healing is to hold a crystal like this between this finger or this finger. You'll see me mentioning either one of them. And when you hold it this way, careful on some of these. The tips are very, very sharp. So I would recommend that you start by holding it this way. So with a pair of faces, you hold it here, and you take then the other tips, hold it here, draw your breath in, create an image of well-being and love, and just pulse your breath. That's all there is to it. Go to the next pair of faces, pulse your breath. The crystal now is clear. The stresses, the tensions, from the moment of its birth, all the struggles that it has gone through has now been released. It is healed, ready for you to work with and to use. You can check this out as I have. I don't have my laboratory here. Probably the next time I come, we will have further instrumentation, the Omega and other equipment, where you can see the tremendous change that takes place in this crystal. The moment you put the thought of love and well-being into it. You've emptied the crystal of a charge by creating two oscillating fields, one going in this direction, the other going in this direction. Now the moment you empty the crystal of the charge, the next step you want to do is to fill it. So you fill by holding it in your hand the way I have now. Forefinger here, thumb and the middle finger here. Hold, see how I have it? Draw my breath in. Tune to the crystal. As I fill my breath, I keep filling and filling and filling. I'm still drawing my breath in as I'm talking to you. Fill this whole upper cavity. You want to fill, not the stomach. It's a 4-step level to breath, and we'll cover that tomorrow. Start here on the diaphragm. You start filling here until you fill these outer cavities, and this is where the power comes, right here, here and here. Once that is in, watch. See, notice I went up, my body went up and it went down. I impacted a power, a force. I just did it. It was not. It was a whole vital transfer of charge. You follow? Once the crystal is filled, it's yours now. Now it becomes personal. Now it is you. And truly you. Your signature, your life signature is in this crystal. It is a dynamic, living activity or representation of the activities going on in and around your subtle body. It is more than that. You can study yourself at all levels of consciousness through this crystal now. The impact, the statements I am making to you are enormous. I cannot finish in my lifetime the doors that I see opening from a systematic study of these words I'm giving now to you. I cannot, and I will not open too many doors for myself. I want to do a few well and lay a solid ground and then pass it on to the next generation. We have needed an instrument to study ourselves. Man, in his human body, is continually, dynamically changing. You're changing. Every movement of your mouth creates a change in there. So how can I study it? I would have to develop a dynamic instrument to study you. You follow me? And now if I want to study now your brain wave activity, I put electrodes on with electrode paste, take it to an electrode encephalograph, look at the alpha, the beta, the theta wave or delta wave activities. But I'm only getting this point. You follow me? This electrode and this electrode through this electrode material into this equipment. I'm not getting the whole picture. I want to study the auric activity of my body. So I take a galvanic skin response machine called GSR. It measures the change in electrical resistance in the tissue here. But I'm measuring this, and that's all. See, the real problem, it is so completely, severely limited. I want to measure the activity of the heart. So I use what we call a blood plethysmograph. So I take a finger here, and I wrap it up and have a little light-emitting diode, and I measure the activity of my heart here. But it's not here. Do you follow what I'm saying to you? But with this crystal, done with exactly what I have said to you, I can get a dynamic, vital measurement of you, your entire being, be it a physical activity, be it emotional activity, be it a mental activity or a spiritual activity. You have an entire laboratory contained in here of you. It's that deep. And I'm saying to you, each one of you, more information than I've ever passed on in the United States. That is my way of showing respect to you and to Kurt. Because I have prayed from the day I have started this technology almost 14 years ago that I would find men and women who have the integrity of mind, heart, and soul to approach this with a systematic, rigorous way. Because what you can do with this is extreme good or unbelievable harm. I cannot be more solid in what I am saying. Yes? I mean, I'm totally sincere in this. To such an extent that when I started this technology, and I saw the impact of what you can do even with a natural crystal, I threw it away. The crystals disappeared on me, and I said, I want nothing to do with this. I was given a crystal again. Again I rejected it. And then finally, I said, all right, I will do this technology provided I be given the means of ensuring that no serious harm will come from this technology to mankind again. So what I do, my friends, into every crystal that we make, I put a safety valve in the crystal. If you abuse the crystal in a negative way, it will shatter. The tip will pop off, and if you really fool around, it will crack right in half. And that is my protection for the good of mankind. It's that serious, and I'm that sincere in what I am saying to you. The effects of what you can do with a crystal like this would frighten most people. But there's nothing to fear when you act in a loving, sincere way. Because you're working for the good of the person and not for your control or manipulation over them. Yes?
Are you the only person who can make crystal?
Right now on the earth plane, yes. Yeah, Dr. Laskow, who I trained, he's a medical doctor. He was with me for over 4 years. He decided to go on his own. He has a man cutting crystals for him without my knowledge. I just let him go. But
can you control him?
I won't control anyone. I just let him go. You see, I will be sharing information with you that as I said, I've given to no one before. What I call core information, root information. The implication behind my words is tremendous. When you watch the tape, when you listen to the audio tapes, you'll see the depth to which I've had to go in thinking. I pray each morning for guidance. I work with all the power and the strength of the technical and scientific training that God has given me throughout my lifetime. I am a material scientist. I was with IBM for 27 years in the material science department, working in matter, the study of magnetism, of phosphorus, of liquid crystals. I've put intensive technical scientific study on the forces of nature. But these are like, my friends, toys. Please, like toys compared to what you can do with this. I cannot be more sincere. Do you see what I mean? I'll give you an example right now. In fact, I will never do it again. I was in England, invited by Sir John Whitmer to the May lectures that went on for a number of years. And that was in 1974 or 5. 75. I had done many, many years of work on man-plant communication, using a plant as a transducer for the forces of mind. I was approached by psychics to have me subject myself to hypnotic treatment by Andrea Poharich. And I said, no, there is no necessity. I do not want it. And these girls came at me again and again during the interim periods as we were going through the meeting. Finally, it was my turn to lecture. And I gave the lecture on the plant experiments, and then we went into the main rooms, about 150 people, for a demonstration on the working with a plant in using it as a transducer. Now, to use this, I must go with my mind into the plant by drawing my breath in. And the moment I draw my breath in, I'm totally vulnerable to everybody around, because my aura is pulled in down to a very, very thin envelope, and a person who has psychic ability or knowledge can go into my auric field and attach, just like an insect or a beetle. Well, Andrea Poharich was in my left-hand side. The other girl was like where you are right now. And the third girl was on my right, so they had triangulation on me. I stood there, drew my breath in, and as soon as I drew my breath in, I was hit with a blow. Right here in the chest. And my chest caved in. It's just like you took a big iron clamp and squeezed you. I couldn't breathe. I stood there and I held my breath. I've learned pranayama. I've practiced it now for many, many years, which means holding breath. This man does it also. And I waited till my body, I felt the equilibrium coming back in, then I could let my breath out and catch a small breath, but I had only a fragment of my original breath. I said, I must call a halt to the meeting. I'm not feeling well. 2 women, like you, who were just about the distance you were, saw what happened to me. They were healers. So I went out of the room. They, in turn, followed me, said, can I help you? I said, yes. I've been psychically attacked. And so one woman stood on the left-hand side and the other one on the right-hand side. And we breathed together. And they breathed, one person breathed out, another one breathed in. So I was doing this. And gradually, as doing the breath this way, I could get now the equilibrium back. One woman had her hand on one shoulder, the other one had my hand on the other shoulder. And with our alternated breathing, I could break the bond, the stricture. It was just like somebody put a steel band around me. And gradually it broke, and I found my chest opened up, and I could breathe. And I went back into the meeting. The pressure was so great on my chest that after the lecture the next day, a man there who was a teacher on Ralphing, I had a 2.5-hour session on Ralphing in my chest. And he had to work 2.5 hours to break the strictures in the muscular tension that was here. And when he did, suddenly all the chest cavity opened up, and suddenly my chest was open and I could breathe. But I was mad. I was emotionally disturbed, really furious because somebody deliberately, willfully did this. So I picked up a crystal exactly like this. Said, I'll show you now what can be done with a crystal. I poured that anger into that crystal. Breathed in, and then started to focus onto the audience and started to pulse with my breath. And when I came to alignment with this girl, I released my breath through the crystal. She and the chair started to oscillate. As I held the crystal, it just oscillated this way. It levitated about 5 feet in the air. About the entire height from where you were sitting here up, and it was up there. It was 150 people watching. I held the crystal this way, and then when I lifted the crystal, she came crunching down. Everybody saw it. Not a person came to me after the meeting and said a word to me. I've seen this happen so many times. You see a phenomenon and you blot it out of your mind and do not acknowledge it. But when I returned home, I took the crystal, recut it, and I will never make these angles again. I don't want that type of power. Because, and the reason, and the only reason I'm now giving this to you, I've done levitation with this. And the reason I'm telling you is my belief is the ancient minds knew exactly what I had done with a crystal like this. And I believe they levitated the stones into place in many of these large edifices. Do you see what I'm saying? Because I saw this 130-pound girl and that chair would just lift it into the air from just a pulsed breath from the crystal. So never, never work with anger in your heart. Always clear your mind, work in a quiet, loving way. Because you can transfer that feeling to another person and they carry that with them and they really don't know then what has happened to them. All right. When is a crystal not a crystal? I can take now this crystal, put it into a furnace, and heat it up to 1300 degrees centigrade. It becomes molten. The forces that bind these unit cells together are destroyed. They let go and they flow around and just form these silicon dioxide molecules. I take this then, this molten mass of silica made from this, pour it into an exact mold which is like this. And it comes back to exactly this shape again. Will that crystal, or is that a crystal? Yes or no? What do you think? Why not?
Because of the structure. The structure is not there.
That's right.
There's an external structure, but not an
It
external
has an
form,
external
but no
form, but not the internal symmetry.
I need a translation. Model,
Smelted.
Good. Please, I've been hit with this. As I get more and more perfect crystals like this, they say, well, this looks like a piece of glass. Is it real? God, I'd like to clobber them and put them over my knees and spank them. It costs me months and months of work to find pieces of crystal like this that I can cut them from. They're very, very hard to come by. But when you take this crystal and melt it, it has lost its order. It has lost its total purpose in life. And what you end up with is an empty shell. Visualize your house with all of the rooms in it. And now you take your house and you melt it, and then you put it back into form and just have the outer shell. You just have a shell, but nothing inside the house. It's just an empty box with no structure, nothing. That's exactly what a piece of glass is. You've turned this quartz, the single crystal, into glass. These are now moving in all different directions. They do not hold a charge. They do not have the capacity of cohering the energy of mind. Does that answer many, many questions now?
If you cool it very, very slowly, extreme slowly, from 850 degrees
Now you come to something else again.
it would regain.
It will start to crystallize. But what you're doing, you're allowing, by the very, very slow cooling, the unit cell to form. And once that unit cell forms, it then recrystallizes. But I did not say that. I said you take that hot milk, pour it into a mold. Rapid cooling, there is no chance. And there are two states to this, to the quartz. It has two different crystallographic states depending upon the rate of cooling that as you take it from the melt on down. Or I can take this quartz and I can heat it up. I could change the internal symmetry just by taking it up to a critical state. It will change. Now, the color that you see in quartz is the result of impurities. If I get iron salt, Fe2O3 iron oxide, I get amethyst, the bluish color that one sees in the beautiful amethyst stones. If I get a ferrous state, I will get the citrine or yellow crystals that you will see from quartz. I give this, I'm writing a book now on crystals, on crystal therapeutics. I cover this in each chapter. Minute traces of metals create a cosmic influence. Please, I repeat, minute traces of metals in a crystal create cosmic influences.
Betyder det først minute?
Impurities,
One does not have to have this in the crystal in order to produce this influence. One can take a small amount of metal. I'm talking now, for example, the tissue salts, the Schussler tissue salts. You put a drop in solution on the crystal like this. Put your finger on it, pulse your crystal. Now you have that metal influence in this crystal. But you have it from an etheric standpoint. You have it from a standpoint where it can act on this body, not on the physical body. And with that, you can erase it again and release it. But once you have it inside the crystal lattice, you can't release it. You're limited with a colored stone to those limitations that that coloration imposes. Please, are there any questions on this? This is very, very important. Do you see what I'm saying? You understand the importance of this?
Not exactly.
What?
I don't
Nice.
know.
All right, dear. You go to books on crystals where people talk about use of crystals in healing. They speak on all different stones having healing properties. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes.
You don't have to go through a lot of stones. You don't have to use ruby. You don't have to use amethyst. You can do all of that with this. That's what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
With one crystal, you can take on all of their properties. It's very, very important. It saves a lot of money. Because you spend a lot of money for gems, and it is not necessary. Does that help now?
Yes.
Now you see what's the back of it. Yeah.
But when you wear a certain type of...
I didn't come into that.
Okay.
When you wear it, it's a different thing.
Yeah.
When you wear a gemstone, you take it and put it onto your body and bring it in this. Now you're linking to cosmic influences. Now, if you want those type of influences, it becomes an asset to you. Now you're building those forces in your body. And they become important for your total well-being. But for a therapeutic instrument, you want it as clean and as clear and as simple as possible.
Yes. You said it is necessary just to put a little, some drops of metal solution.
That's all.
But if you don't have that, could you put, for example, a ruby on?
Oh, sure.
And
Put a ruby
charge
on it like that. You have the quality of the ruby here.
Beautiful.
It's simple.
Yeah.
Could you do it with the thought alone?
What?
Could you do it with the thought alone?
If you had a clear image in your subconscious mind of what that is, you must know the essence of the ruby. But just thought of ruby itself, if you had not experienced ruby, it will not work. Please, I repeat this now. You can just mentally conceive of ruby and then put the thought of ruby in here. If you have had contact with ruby, if you have an experience in your body, the vibrational essence of ruby.
What we're talking about now is silica. And, but then we have the diamond, carbon.
The carbon, yes. I have stayed away from carbon yet, because that's another world of study.
Excuse me, carbon.
What is
Diamond.
Diamond.
Corundum is aluminum oxide, chromium. That is another lattice. It is much more limited. Now, I'll tell you part of the reason, too, why I stay away. Silica, SiO2, the hexagonal lattice that silica forms in its unit cell, this, matches the vibrational spectra of water. We are mostly water. It is my belief, and I underline the word belief, that our outer body, the energy body, is hexagonal. So there is a balance, a fitting between our body, our energy body, and this. These two fit together. Do you see what I'm saying now?
Yes.
And therefore I have put aside looking at other stones like diamond, like ruby, and all this, until I've carefully worked out the knowledge in this. See, this one crystal, the four-sided healing crystal, I put over 10 years of study. 99% of my work and my study has been this crystal and the form that you see. We're going next into form. I'm giving you step by step a progression of how this has evolved. We have in our body, your body, a unique type of crystal. It is called a liquid crystal, a flusica crystalline.
Fluna crystal.
Oh, what?
Fluna crystal.
Fluna. Isn't this wonderful? Now, it is the bridge between a rigid solid like this and a fluid, water, which is moving in all different directions. The membrane around our cell is a liquid crystal. The fluid in our bloodstream, fluid, forms into liquid crystal systems. It is my belief that when we think, we release in space a vibration which we draw in with breath into our lungs and structure the bloodstream with our thought. Now, what structures is water? The water in our body then is a information storage system. You can find it out when you become stressed, when you become emotionally disturbed. What happens? Shh. You put on weight. Not fat. Water. Why? Because your thoughts The energy coming from your mind is structuring that water, binding it into the tissue of your body and not releasing it. That's why when people go on these diets, they become all excited. First week, down goes 5 pounds. It's not fat. It is water. That's why I said to you, you're going to lose 5 pounds. And you will, if you want to let certain things go. Now, I have put 3.5 years of study, systematic study of the energy from crystal going into water and structuring it and forming a liquid crystal information store. And we have proof in our laboratory of exactly that taking place. The water is changed. There is a change in pH, hydrogen ion, change in surface conductivity, a change in resistivity of the water, and also of the infrared and ultraviolet spectra. So the water is chemically changed by just putting a thought form into the water through a crystal. Now, I have a number of papers. Those of you that are interested in science, here are what we call the Marcel Water papers. It was a preliminary summary of information, and these are available from our laboratory with references. And I have with me the very latest paper we have just finished on the structuring of water. It will be approved by the patent department, and then I will have a copy for you when I go back to the States, and immediately I will send it to Kurt. But it gives the most solid, technical, scientific statement that thoughts have the capacity of structuring our body by means of the water that is within us. And the key element for structuring our body is the energy transport through crystals. And that really is the whole loop or methodology of transfer. Question?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was thinking, what does the crystal really do in this process? You send the thought to the crystal. What then?
The crystal. All right, I'm speaking, am I not, to you now? And you're hearing me.
Yeah.
What is the tape recorder doing?
Taping, listening, receiving.
How does it store that? Here's a cassette. It stores my voice, doesn't it? Now, it stores my voice by forming what we call magnetic domains. A magnetic domain is pulling the energy from magnetic material and form a little energy bump on the surface of the tape. When I hold a crystal like this in my hand, I can store not only voice, sound, but my inner feelings, the energy of my body. So it becomes a storage element of myself, a dynamic storage element. Now, I just come with you. Just hold it for a second. The unique difference between this and this is, watch, A, the magnetic tape, once stored, does not change. Okay? This, when you store the charge in here, is continually changing. It's continually reflecting you once you put yourself in it. There's a dynamic nature to this and a static nature to this. Now, do I give you a deeper understanding now? You see? I have a dynamic tool of myself or what I'm dealing with in working into you.
Marcel, if I understand you right, then that means that the crystal is recording all the time.
Totally.
Yeah. So that means that at any point in time you can go in and you can just tap the information and see what is going on.
That's right.
Is there any amplifying of your energy?
I'm coming to that now. I'm trying to give it, that's why I'm speaking slowly. I'm speaking step by step because this is a very, very complex process of thinking. We must think dynamically. Yes.
I was thinking, if I have 4 kids who also bring water to the table and so on, could anyone take a crystal, not this crystal, but a natural
Crystal?
and we can use that for the water?
Sure.
But I was thinking, if the kids said, oh, we want 200 kroner to buy something, they could put it into and I could drink the information.
You can drink the information.
Would be smart.
It becomes like a communion. We're exchanging the essence from one another. I can put my thought of well-being, of love, into that water through the crystal, and then you can drink this and imbue yourself with it. We experienced that in Germany. It was really remarkable. We had 4 days together, and as we grew in association, we became closer and closer, bonded together. It's an experience I will never forget. It was remarkable. Yes, you had a question.
I've had some information and speculation with regard to sugar. Like sugar is a crystalline product which is not obtained in nature, but it's a product of a refinery.
Good. Yeah.
And I have seen and observed that when taken into the body, and if not sort of substituted or transformed, because it's sort of as far as I can see, it's a product a body can't use, that kind of sugar, simply. That when it goes through the body fluid, it can become sugar, crystalline, again in the brain, and is the main reason for strange headaches, like the guy be hit by cosmic forces or thought forces, fighting from all persons around him, like he become overwhelmed by thoughts, and like a guy, a little boy in school eating too much sugar, he just sits pumping on the chair, rocking and so on. By this sort of being out crystallized in the brain.
Well, it's even deeper than that. I think he becomes overcharged. There is an energy far beyond his capacity in his body to handle it. See, there's a charge limit that we normally see. You have it. Let's stay away from the human body right now. Let's look at a battery. You take and apply a field to the battery and charge a battery. It will only hold a certain charge, and then it will saturate and not accept a further charge. If you overcharge, the walls of that battery break down. There's a breaking down because of excessive input of energy. I think the same thing is true here. A little bit does it good, but then when you go beyond that little bit, there's an overload that takes place, and then you can't handle it. And there may be truth to what you say in the crystallization, in other words, a building of a foreign form. As you were talking on sucrose, I was thinking of fructose, which are the fruit sugars, and then finally of the honey. You see, the form that we take, honey, is what? A fluid. It's not in a solid form. Isn't that right?
Yes.
And there may be a good aspect to that. I mean, this is the start of some very good thinking here, and let's carry this forward a little bit further each time. See, the root behind wine the alcohol is a sugar, is a grape sugar. And that breaks down into alcohol and water. C12H22O11 breaks into alcohol and water. And then the alcohol in turn breaks down to carbon dioxide and water. But every time that breakdown takes place, there is a pulse of energy that is given. It is a fuel. Now we can fuel the body with mind, or we can fuel the body with chemical elements. But once you start, all of you, please, this is very, very key, to move away from chemical to the energies of the cosmic forces. You're dealing with a force which is eternal, which is totally balancing, which does not create these ups and downs, this violence. And that is what I'm trying to swing us into. Because you can put, with your intention, a force in here that can balance a body, can give the same effect as sugar. In other words, a high without the secondary effects of the overloading.
And can you take out sort of by the sugar effect?
Absolutely,
On
right
the
on.
overactive child.
I've done that. I've quieted a person like that.
Good.
Just going in like that, and the very active child will suddenly quiet down and become relaxed. Because what you do, but you, please, you must have the precise knowledge in your mind, in your brain, of what you are doing. Just swinging the crystal around doesn't help you. You must know the syndrome, you must understand the symptom of what is happening, and then when you treat, you get an effect. Because you're transferring a pattern from your knowledge, from your experience to that child, and when you get the right transfer of a charge, it takes place. Now, you asked again about the crystal. What is the value of the crystal? It is a computer. It is a mind computer. It is a means of holding patterns of thought. Cut to various shapes that I have now, I can take that thought and amplify it in here. Exactly the same way as we in the past in forest took a weak electric charge, created these vacuum tubes which have gone now to micrologic circuitry to take a weak electrical charge, amplify it, and do useful function with it. So I am building crystals as the amplifier of the thought forms of man and woman. This is our computer. And we then can use this wisely, intelligently, to take a thought, build it up, put it to work, and help. In place of chemical therapy, drugs, tranquilizers, and the like, we use the power of love combined with the knowledge in our brain to effect a change that has been done now systematically with chemical agents. You see what I'm leading into? You see why it is so big. I will be attacked by drug industries because it will be a real competition once the thing starts to spread out and to grow. I want to deal with these things in a loving way. I'm not after money or anything like that. I want to deal with real knowledge.
So you can create a thought form, an image.
Right.
It is not necessary to be image.
It's
You
dealing with the,
visualize.
you deal with, see, when you deal into what I call essence chemistry, you're dealing with the imaging, we're dealing with the geometry, you're not dealing with the bits and pieces way, way down. You're dealing with the substance of the thing. I think it's time for a break, and then we'll come back in and do some experiencing with our crystals.
Okay, hello. Your bookkeeper. Ben, you ready?
Will you come? I have a rather nice paper here. It was written by Robert N. Miller. The title of the paper is Electricity, a Primary Energy. And I'd like to offer this to you. I understand Kurt has brought with him a copy machine.
Yes.
Is it here?
Yes, it's outside.
Outside. And so, during the break period, you're welcome to copy this. But it gives the work that Dr. Miller has done with Olga Warrell and the nature of the force that you and I are talking about, as far as he is going. And it is good to share this because one of the things that he stresses, that when a healer works, when a healer is effective in their treatment of a person, they go into very high beta activity of the brain. And then the beta stops. Now, when I work with a crystal, and when I work especially with the six-sided crystal, I find that I'm speaking for myself now with the measurements we have done at the University of California in Davis, that I will be in exceedingly high beta with my eyes wide open. Draw my breath in, close my eyes, I will put a crystal in my hand, the beta activity will go down, it would down, but the alpha activity will go up. And then, when I open my eyes with a crystal in my hand, it will go right up as if I had my eyes closed. I'll show you the chart tomorrow on this. So you can hold very high alpha. Now, what I practically interpret that as is that you're opening a window to your creative mind, the mind that is not limited by time and space or by the senses. It's a dream state. It's what you do when you get your active state of dreaming. You're in high alpha. And people go into long training in silver mind control and the different type of exercises to increase the alpha activity of a person. Here, with one breath, you're in maximum alpha as you hold the crystal. You put the crystal down, the alpha activity drops right down to normal. It's one of the physical things that I have seen in my own body of what happens when I use a crystal. Now, why a crystal of this shape against the normal six-sided shape that the crystal has? That happened in 1974 or 5. I awoke one morning and As I awoke, with my eyes open, I saw an image of the tree of life. A crystal, the representation of two different angles. And this is what I saw. And of course I saw, different lines going on inside of it there. I proceeded to carve this out of crystal quartz, and this is the shape that resulted. Now, why this symbol? What is the implicit meaning behind this symbol? It's a big question. When I took and had the equipment made for me, and this is a real story, like out of science fiction, I prayed to our Lord, dear God, give me an instrument that I can measure the energies that are contained in this crystal as I work with it with my mind. I did not have any scientific equipment at IBM, but all of the laboratory tools I had available to me. I could not measure the field that was contained in here. I knew I had a field. 2 months later, a young man came to my door by the name of Daniel Perkins. He said, here is your instrument, the Omega 1. He, Daniel Perkins, is in Las Vegas, Nevada. He was guided by extraterrestrials, by an extraterrestrial by the name of Simjazi, who is the same person who has worked with Billy Myers in Switzerland. She gave him, according to Daniel Perkins, the design for this equipment. He put it together, and she directed him to come and give me the equipment. That's about as far out as you can imagine. I got he gave me no instructions. He said, you'll know how to use it. No information. He said, here it is. And Lily walked away, and that was the last. A month later, I got a bill from his wife. But I then learned how to work with it. And I got various types of numbers. I said, now what do these numbers? I had to give assignment to these numbers to give a understanding of what these numbers meant. I had no textbook. And then I went to England and went to visit with the Delawares. I saw their laboratory in